The following program has been rated GE by the Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello viewer, welcome to Chungu cha Jamii. My name is Betty. I am your host today, and this entire month of March we have been talking about creating wealth. Today I am joined by an amazing lady. You really don't want to miss this show. You want to watch it and look at it again and again, even after we are done on YouTube, GBS TV Africa, and on Facebook. You'll find this after we are done. But now join us as we discuss very important topic, the AQ factor in business. You know, a lot of people are doing business. They have the capital, they have the ideas, and as they start, just soon after, these guys are closing. We don't know what the problem is, but we have the EQ expert. I know you know about IQ, but there's EQ, which is most important for you in running your business. Stay on, listen out as she introduces herself and take us through this.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me online today. My name is Mucha Mlingo, and I am an emotional intelligence coach. I am also the founder and lead change maker of PTS Africa, the emotional intelligence company. We work with individuals and teams and organizations to help them understand the power of their emotions and how they can use their emotions as a strategic resource. And I'm looking forward to this conversation today, talking about creating wealth and really looking at the EQ factor, as you've heard it said. So I'm really happy to be here.
Wow. Welcome, Mucha.
You.
It's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I'm very well. I am very well. All things considered, you know, we're battling this pandemic.
I know.
Right now, the third wave or whatever.
Yes.
So all things considered, I'm blessed. Yes.
Good. Good. Nice. So emotional intelligence. We know a lot of things, especially looking at IQ, but there are many things that you overlook. When one is starting a business, they want to go to a consultant, and some people just, you know, straight ahead go and start and try this and that, what they know, but they never last. What do you think is the problem that someone starts a business and shortly after it's not working and there's a lot of emotions involved? Oh, I'm not making money. There are no profits, just losses. People are not coming to work. There's a lot of struggle.
I think there's a number of reasons why people's or businesses don't survive. You know, the research does show that a lot of businesses die in the first 3 years of beginning of operations. And I think it's a number of things. There's a number of factors. You know, running a business is not easy. You know, that's the first thing I would say. It's a lot of work. And I think, you know, when you run a business, you have to have a very long-term view. You have to understand that you may not necessarily get immediate returns. So if I would say maybe some of the top reasons, and these are not exhaustive, but some of the reasons why I feel that businesses don't last. I think the first thing is that a lot of people go into business without really thinking through the viability of a business. So just because, you know, you like something, you enjoy doing something, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is something that people will spend money consistently on. So, you know, when we look at business and going into business, we talk about, is there a problem that you are actually solving? But more than that, are people willing to buy? Are people willing to pay for that solution?
I know.
So it's not just enough that you're solving a problem, and that you're passionate about solving that problem. Are people willing to actually buy? Is there a market? I think that's one of the reasons. So we don't necessarily go into the kind of research that is required to determine whether that, you know, business idea is viable. I think the second thing is that, you know, running a business is a roller coaster. And sometimes we just give up, you know, too soon. We're just not able to push through and and just keep going when things get tough, because they will. And, you know, you're working in an environment where, you know, there are so many factors around beyond your capabilities. Because running a business is not just about whether you are good at the business. It's also about the environment you're in, right?
And you may not just be waking up and showing up, you know.
Definitely. So it's about the environment you're in. It's about the, So I think that's another thing. Maybe we give up quickly. And some of that giving up quickly it's not because someone is lazy, but maybe it's because you have bills to pay, you have responsibilities, and so you're feeling as though you're never going to be able to get to that point where your business is actually meeting the needs that you have. So yes, there's the giving up. And then I think the third thing is that as much as we may say that passion is not enough, passion is also essential. You need to really, really love what you do so that you can have that staying power. And I think we have a tendency of trying to kind of copy paste. So I see someone, they're doing this business, they're doing really well in that business. So hey, let me also join that business. But if something is not really your passion, it's going to be very hard to sustain it.
When I listened to you, especially when you brought in your second point, where you talk about people easily give up. I mean, a lot of businesses, you'll definitely find challenges. I wonder what it is that you need to re-energize and keep fueling you to carry on even when days are really bad and low.
I think for me, then, the key is emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
The key is emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what happens at PTS?
So, as an organization, we work with individuals, like I said, we work with teams, we work with organizations to help them understand the power of emotions. We have, for the longest time, believed that IQ is the thing.
Yes,
IQ is
exactly.
the thing we must focus on.
Everyone knows.
Yes, that, the children who are the smartest in class, who get the best grades, are the ones who will be the most successful. But it's not necessarily the case.
No.
It's not necessarily the case. Actually, decades of research show that, people who have average IQs outperform individuals with high IQ 70% of the time. Right? 70% of the time. That is a big number.
Yes.
So the actual missing factor here is emotional intelligence. Now, that's not to say that IQ is not important, but we're saying is it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Emotional intelligence speaks to resilience. Emotional intelligence speaks to being able to understand what you're feeling and utilize it. Emotional intelligence speaks to motivation. Emotional intelligence speaks to your curiosity, your ability to go back to the drawing board and ask yourself, okay, it's not working. Why is it not working? Because, sometimes as a business, it's not so much that the business is all wrong. Maybe it's a certain approach to the business. Emotional intelligence is about being adaptable and open to the fact that, okay, this is not working. Let's go back to the drawing board and understand, why is it not working? What can we do about it? Do we need to shift our business model perhaps? So it's not necessarily that the product or service that you're providing doesn't work or that people don't want it. Maybe it's, there's a small tweak. This is all emotional intelligence. Being able to be honest with yourself and say it's not working. That's also emotional intelligence, right? Being able to say, okay.
Calling yourself for a meeting
and
saying,
calling yourself for a meeting.
Yes,
exactly.
It's
and
not
saying,
working.
Let's talk.
I looked at your business profile and I really liked it. I looked at your clients and I saw that you have really made it, in my judgment. When did you start your business and what is your business?
So my business journey is an interesting one, and you'll allow me to kind of take a few steps back so I can tell my story.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Zimbabwe.
Wow.
Yes, I'm
Welcome
originally
to
from
Kenya.
Zimbabwe. Yes. I have been in Kenya now for 12 years.
Okay.
So what actually happened is my husband and I, who's also from Zimbabwe, were both working in the UK, and he received a job offer here in Kenya. And, my husband and I are pretty adventurous people, and we thought, hey, why not? Let's go. Let's try it out. And so I left my job and we moved to Kenya, and my husband was working. And when I arrived here, I think at the back of my mind, I imagined that I would settle in and then I'd find a job. When I started, we call it tarmacking.
Yes.
Hey, there was no job to be found. And for a number of reasons. My background is in financial services. The last job I had in the UK before we moved, I worked in the training department for a financial services company. So when I moved here, I looked for roles that were similar. They were not very well paid. They were not senior roles. In very many organizations, training is still seen as a very junior function. It's not seen as a strategic function. And, I wasn't interested in being someone who was not going to be a decision maker. Okay. My role was one where, at least I had some decision making power, at least. So I really struggled, could not find work. I also had the issue of a work permit. I'm not Kenyan, so it was a nightmare. So, we made friends with some people at church, and one of the individuals, after we'd gotten to know each other, so this is a few years of being here, maybe 3 years or so after being here, just asked me to come and help them in their company.
Okay.
Yeah, he worked for a particular organization, invited me, and that was my first assignment. And I remember after doing that, it was a training assignment. I remember thinking, I could do this. And that's how my company was born. So we actually set up shop in 2010. And I started as a training company. So just me, and jobs came by referral. So this person then referred me to someone else. And our area of focus was sales training, because that was like the area that I was, very knowledgeable about. So we did that. And I always say that my company is old on paper, but for the first half of that, between now and, we're now in 2021, for the first half of those 11 years, to be honest, it was just a hobby. It was a side hustle, even though I didn't have a main hustle. So it was a hobby.
Side hustle, main hustle.
It was a side hustle, you know what I mean?
Yes,
it was a hobby,
and
I didn't actively look for work. It was like when work came, well and good. And then I decided, you know what, I think I want to take this seriously. So then started.
And that was after 5 years.
That was about after 5 years, yeah. So I had my kids, they were now a bit older, and I was like, hey, you know what, I want to be serious about this. I remember actually I converted our SQ into an office. Like, I'm going for this, right? And I'm always so grateful to God for bringing us to Kenya, because I don't imagine that I'd ever be in business if it wasn't for moving here.
I know.
So that's how we started. A few years after that, I always wondered, okay, so what is that X factor, because I would train salespeople and there'll be those who take it and they run and they do so well. Then there are others who are going for training after training after training, but nothing is ever happening. So I was always wondering, what is it that causes people to really take on and invest in themselves and really push themselves to achieve, to be these superstar salespeople. And one day I read something about emotional intelligence, and I was like, this is it.
Wow.
This is the thing.
Wow.
And that really became the turning point in my organization. I realized that this was it. This is the thing I wanted to spend the rest of my time focusing on and understanding and honing. I went back to school, got some licenses in terms of professional licenses, and grew myself as an emotional intelligence coach. So that's really my journey. Wow. And as an EQ coach, really it's just about helping people to understand emotions drive behavior. Whether you think you are rational or not, basically, the reality is your emotions actually drive your behavior. And so if you think about it, if you are oblivious to what your emotions are, it's like someone is driving your car and you have no idea who they are. You know what I mean? Someone's just driving, and this is why we end up going this way and then going that way and going round in circles, because you're not aware that actually, no matter how much you may want to believe you are a rational being, emotions actually drive behavior. Yeah,
I agree. How important is that for business people?
It's extremely important, Betty, because a lot of the decisions we make as business owners are then rooted in our emotions. I'll give you an example. We were talking earlier, Betty, about this idea that financial freedom is not the ability to buy whatever you want. Financial freedom is the ability to not work and still be able to live the lifestyle that you would like to live, right?
Actually, you had made it even simpler. Travel a whole year on vacation. And not worried about bills and stuff. And money is still coming in to sustain.
Month. Exactly. So that is...
And I wondered, who is there?
Well, I'm not there for sure. I am not there, but I'm working towards being there.
I know.
So here's the thing. So when we're having that conversation about the idea of what financial freedom is, one of the things I said is that very many of us as business owners actually stifle our own business because of our fears. I do work where we train people, we coach people. Now, I could be stuck in my fear that if I now bring Betty on board as a consultant and I give Betty my training material, Betty is going to take it and become my competition.
Yes.
But you see, the challenge is I cannot be in more than one place at a time. So as long as I am bound by my fear, I am limiting my growth as an organization. I'm going to have to take those risks. And yes, it's risky. And it's true. Betty may take my stuff and go with it.
True.
But I have to be willing to take that step. And I think for me, this is where emotional intelligence becomes so important. Because as a business owner, if you're not careful, you're making decisions based on your fears. You're making decisions based on, emotions that you're not aware of. And so emotional intelligence is important because it allows you to take a step back and really have that meeting with yourself to determine, am I actually doing what's best for this company? And I think that that's really important because many of our businesses are actually being held back by the person who is meant to be, and not intentionally, right? If you think about it, it's not intentionally. I want my business to grow.
Exactly.
But if I'm not aware, I can be the one that's actually holding my business back. So emotional intelligence is three things. It's being more aware. So understanding what it is you're feeling and how your feelings are showing up. It's being intentional. So it means being, not being driven by my emotions. It's being, building self-management where I do what I need to do, not necessarily what I feel like.
Yes.
Not necessarily what I feel like doing. It's responding.
Yes.
Being able to respond to what happens rather than always just reacting. And then emotional intelligence is about being, more purposeful. It's about making decisions on a daily basis that are aligned with my overall purpose, my overall objective. And that is really essential for someone in business.
It is essential, as you put it, but it's not something that happens in businesses. A lot of businesses, if we talk about family businesses, family has relations and relationships that are very close.
Yes.
And when you talk about family, you'd find the father or the husband is the founder. And there is the wife, and there are sons and daughters probably. So this business growing up, the father has definitely been the one who has invested a lot. And now his fears are these people have been recipients for a very long time. They may not even be understanding the logistics of what he's been able to put in, And so he fears that when he exits, this thing is going to die. But on the side, he also has other people who come to work together with him and support. He has the finance guy who is not part of his family. He has other people who run, just general logistics and operations. So the fear that you're talking about comes to the father or the founder of this business, like what happens when I exit? We have had the families where there's divorce. And so the man has to go separate with his wife, and there has to be shares and dividing of property, and it's really nasty. When you talk about emotional intelligence in this, do you really advise that we need an extra, somebody else apart from this family, to be in charge? What should happen in such a case?
So I think for me, what we're seeing in these kind of family businesses, and actually not, even just for those who are one generational, like mine, where it's not yet my children, working in the business. I think that, what we're seeing is, so let me take a step back. Those fears that the founder feels, that, oh my goodness, I've invested so much, these guys have benefited, they are real. They are very real. But the idea is emotions are supposed to be insight. So whatever you're feeling is meant to be giving you some insight. It's meant to be letting you know that it's like a message from yourself to yourself. And so the idea of emotional intelligence is to unpack that emotion and ask yourself, okay, so what is this emotion telling me? So if I was advising this founder, right, or advising someone who's looking ahead and seeing, because it's better for you to think of this before you get to that point, right? What I would advise is, okay, so how can you put in place systems and structures that make sure that you can exit and it's not a mess? So I'll give you an example, Betty. One of the things I find is, generally, and I say this with respect, as Africans, one of the things we do is we work very hard for our businesses as adults. So here I am, I have my business, I work very hard for it. Very hard. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you work hard. True. It's a lot of hard work.
Yes, yes.
And, I managed to build a profitable business, and this business grows, this business provides for my family. What happens in most cases is my children have zero knowledge of that business.
True.
My children are just beneficiaries of that business. I take them to very good schools. I send them abroad to university. And then suddenly I imagine that those children can come into the business and run it. How? And then when they come into the business and run it with no experience, they are now put in charge of key departments. I think what we need to do is we need to start from the beginning. You need to let them also go that journey of understanding what that business is. So that fear you're feeling that, oh my goodness, if I exit, this business is going to collapse, is true because you've not actually made a contingency. There is no succession planning.
There are no structures.
There are no structures and systems. And so everything is decided by me. That's a problem. My business, as small as it is, I am already thinking ahead and thinking, how can I put in place structures and systems so that this business is now not run on the basis of my emotion. It's run on the basis of what is best for the business. Because here's the thing. We make the assumption that because I am emotionally invested in my business, that I'm the best person to make decisions. But that may not be the case.
Even the worst is, if you are the business owner and this business entirely depends on you, when you are away 1 week, a whole month, your business is stuck, waiting where you have left it until you return. And you pick it up. This is very wrong, I guess. And this should only be done by those who have attained financial freedom.
The challenge is, Betty, I think the issue of people is one of the biggest headaches. It is hard to get good people.
I agree.
It is really hard.
I agree.
And I think a lot of business owners are struggling to get the right fit. So sometimes my inability to let go isn't because I don't want to let go. It's because I'm really struggling to find a person who is going to be committed. Now, they will never be as committed as me because it's not their business.
Never.
But I still want them to be committed, to give me of their discretionary effort. That is hard to find. It's hard to get good talent nowadays. On the flip side, though, is very many owners of businesses like myself, we want good talent, but we don't want to pay a lot of money.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, finding that balance. But I think finding good people is one of the reasons why we hold on. But I can assure you that if my goal is financial freedom, and we're talking in this month, you're talking about, building financial wealth. If my goal is financial wealth, as long as I am chained to that business, I am not financially free. I am not.
You are enslaved.
I am enslaved. And so I have to figure out, I have to find a balance of how do I understand that those emotions I'm feeling, that fear, that anxiety, it's normal, it's natural. I need to then use it to understand why I'm feeling that way and ask myself, okay, what is the issue? Okay, I'm not sure that my children are, they have the skills necessary. Okay, fine, let's invest in skills, right? Or, I don't think my children have the experience. Okay, fine, let's give them experience. Do you know that you can actually even have your children seconded to another organization to go and learn so that they can come and put what they have learned in your business?
Yes.
Right?
True.
Or what if I give this information and someone steals it and runs with it? Because maybe you don't have children, or maybe your children are not interested in your business. So now the people you have to bring on board are people who are not your family. And so the fear then is, okay, they're going to steal my ideas. Well, why not put in place systems and structures? Have contracts. And yes, it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, someone can run with your ideas, and they can steal your ideas. But
And they become your competitors.
they can,
Yes,
but you
yes.
know, you can compete with me, but you'll never be me. You won't, you know. And if my client is foolish enough to go with you, let them go, because they're going to get a substandard service, because you don't have the passion I have. When I created that material, I created it with my heart. You have just copied it. You don't know how to utilize it like I do. But like I was saying, when we listen to the fear, and instead of ignoring it or pushing it away, we actually take a moment to apply emotional intelligence and ask ourselves, what is driving that fear? You're then able to put in place structures. So, you know, you talked about, you know, going on our site and looking at some of our clients. One of the things we have in our contract with our clients is a clause that says that they cannot work with our consultants. Right?
Wow.
So not only is my consultant signing a contract that says that they cannot poach my client, my client is signing a contract that says they cannot work with my consultant, right? And not for everything, but you know what I mean, along those lines.
Yes.
Now, the reason why that's important is because whereas I may not really have the wherewithal to go after a consultant if they go and steal my stuff, if you're working with big organizations, you can go after them. And when I say go after them, I can't take them to court. I can't. I haven't got the muscle they have. But I can make a lot of noise because they've signed a contract.
Yes, yes.
And they're not going to. It's not worth it
Which
for them.
is legal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not worth it for my client to engage with a consultant, because you know there are people who go to your client and say, you know, this project you're doing, I can do it for half the amount. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But if there are consequences, so I feel
they
that
hang on. If the consequences everyone fears.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, it is scary, and yes, you know, let me not even lie. There will be people who will steal your ideas.
Yes, exactly.
But you cannot allow that fear to hold you hostage, because if you do, you're not going to grow. So the idea is unpack all those fears, unpack all those anxieties, and ask yourself, okay, what can I do about them? Okay, I can put in place systems and structures. I can have contracts. I can have this. And then I can build relationships with my clients. Because if I have a good relationship with you, Bessie, and then a consultant comes and tells you, by the way, I can do this job,
you'll come
and tell me. You'll be like, hey, Mucha, by the way, this consultant of yours, this is what they've told me.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So I feel that at some point you have to let go. Otherwise, you have to. And this is why when I say, you know, we help people to use their emotions as a strategic resource. Your emotions are actually a resource.
I like what you say, that when your fears come, you don't just rubbish them or ignore them, but you think through them. And when you think through them, then you'll get to emotional intelligence that now leads you to put up a structure that you think your business needs to take you to the next level, or to curb that fear. Because just assuming it is not good enough. How long can you ignore it? You'll keep coming, and it's a reality. It's a reality. These things are bound to happen. And they are bound to happen to anyone.
Yes. And here's the thing with our emotions. Our emotions are powerful enough to override rational thinking. So when you ignore your fear, when you ignore your anxiety, when you ignore those signals that tell you you're overwhelmed, when you ignore it, what happens is you're not paying attention to it, but it's still affecting you.
That's the
So it's affecting you. So you are taking 2 steps forward, and then your emotions are pulling you back. 2 steps forward, your emotions are pulling. So you're in this constant tug of war, and that's not sustainable. So it's much better for you to say, okay, you fear, let's have a conversation.
We're gonna deal.
Let's deal with you.
Yes.
Right? So what is it? Why are you here? What insight? What are you telling me? Because your emotions are insight. Every emotion you feel has an insight that you can gain from it.
Wow. I want us to take a short break, Mucha, and when we come back, please let's talk about retirement plan, especially for business owners, because they cannot be enslaved forever, making money from when they're 18 to when they're 90. It's really tiring. They can't be the ones who are enslaved here. They need some freedom. Viewer, we are taking a short break. I am joined by Mucha Mlingo, who is telling us about the EQ factor in business. Stay with us, coming back shortly. This is our world, our country, our community, our society. It's all happening at Chungu cha Jamii. In this place, we talk about parenting, we talk about marriage, we talk about relationships, we talk about dating. We go to the prisons and find out how life is over there. We talk about the village, what happens down there in our slums. What exactly is happening back in our schools? What is happening with the people that we know as our husbands and our brothers? What is happening with addiction also in our society? We offer solutions. We bring in experts, we bring in psychologists to tell us more on how to handle our problems. Come, let us share together. Let's get round the pot, have some soup, and talk about the issues in our community.
Thank you very much for staying tuned to GBS, and remember, this is Talking Show, whereby we talk about social problems and the solutions to those problems among the youth and the society at large. And it's at this point that we really want to include the whole society. We want to be inclusive. We want to have as many opinions as possible of how we can handle the problems and towards the solution.
Ni vipaji poetry loans. So ukiniona niko on run pale tao BS nikiharakisha kukuja GBS, it's because poetry loans is back. At this time it's back to inform you, to transform you, to educate you and inspire you.
Najiamini, ndo maana sometimes me who laugh at my failures ndo ni motivate success. Ni Dante Spy the poet hapa hivi. Tuko vipaji poetry lounge live at GBS.
Best Chef na Spice ya Kari no wanda alikuwa mkali. Vipaji Poetry Lounge
at all social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, tuko everywhere. Vipaji Poetry Lounge, GBS. Stay tuned.
Everywhere, GBS.
We are talking about the EQ factor in business. And as I told you, Mucha here is giving us great insights, especially she's talking about fear. So Mucha, I had mentioned to you that after the break, we'll talk about the exit plan. As a business owner, you find yourself chained to business when initially that was not your plan when you went into business. A lot of people go into business because they want a certain kind of freedom. They want to make more money than they were making when they were employed. They want to have some freedom of time that they can, they can work 3 hours, they can work 4 hours, they can even work 20 hours to do what they want to achieve. They have their own plan and they want to do something that they enjoy. But we find a lot of business owners who are now chained by their businesses and they fear to exit because when you think of exiting, then that means somebody else is now here to run the business. But who wants to pay a CEO more money than they earned while they were working by themselves?
It's really tough. And this is why I say that the EQ factor is so important, because you have to have those conversations with yourself. I did not go into business to be chained. I did not. I went into business. I mean, fair enough, my journey into business was, I always say that, God had to just, I don't know, come and knock me on my head to show me that this is the direction I want you to go, right?
I know.
But the reality is many people, you quit your job, you go into business because you do want that freedom. And one of the things I love about running my business is the freedom it gives me with my children and my family, the freedom to travel. So that's why we went into business, right? And over and above that,
to make money.
I'm making money doing what I love to do. I mean, what better than that? But I don't want to be chained. So I think, you as a business owner, you need to really start having conversations with yourself about exit. I encourage every business owner to actually have an exit plan, to have a plan that says over the next 5, over the next 10, over the next 15 years, this is how we are going to grow, or this is how we're going to move as an organization to the point where I can exit. And exit doesn't necessarily mean you have nothing to do with the business. No, it doesn't. There are many exit strategies that you can use.
Yes.
There are those who will exit and become like chairman of a board. You can exit, and then if you work in my kind of business where we're consultants based,
yes,
you can then work as a consultant. You can exit and support in an advisory fashion. So there's you just have to ask yourself, what does exit look like to me, right? What would I want to still be doing if I left the business? And then now you have to ask yourself, how do I put in place the systems and structures? How do I get the people that will allow me to exit? Now, some of those, depending on your business, it could be your children if it's a family business, but if it's not a family business, it could be hiring. And yes, it means, Betty, that you need to be willing to pay someone more than what you may have earned. Because remember, when I do it, I pay myself, but I'm also doing it because it's my business. I have a passion for it. Someone else is not going to be incentivized that way, right? You're going to have to be able to pay them market rate so that they feel they're being rewarded for their labor.
You need EQ to get to that level,
Yes,
where you can actually count and pay more than you earned.
But you see, you will get what you pay for. You get what you pay for.
Which it's not automatic.
No, it's not.
It's not automatic.
This is
because when you are committing yourself, that okay, guy, I'm gonna step aside. I'll be watching from behind, but so carry on the mantle, and I will pay you this much. That time you're so uncertain. Is this guy gonna give me even in the next 3 months? Is my business going to stand? There's still a lot of uncertainty and fears that without EQ, I doubt you can make it.
So transition plans actually take years. They are not, it's not something that you would do in 3 months is not enough. I remember some years ago when Bill Gates of Microsoft mentioned that he was stepping down. The declaration of his step down, I think, came 3 years before he actually left. So the idea is that you are grooming someone to take over, right? And that grooming is not where you give and then you leave. That can't work. This is your business. So it needs to take time. This is why I say you need to have a 5-year, a 10-year plan. I would say the transition could be a year of working with the person, then maybe another year of supporting them, in the business, and maybe 1 more year where you've now stepped out but you're available, right?
1 foot here, 1 foot there.
So when we're talking about stepping away, for me, I look at my business and I envision stepping away being now the chairman of the board. Remember, at the end of the day, the board is the one that determines the direction of the business. The CEO just executes what the board desires.
Exactly.
So if you put in place those systems and structures, the same way you've hired that CEO, the CEO can get fired if they are not delivering. All you do is, and again, we have a tendency as business owners sometimes to really be a bit stingy with money, right?
Exactly. Because they have worked so hard for it.
I've worked so hard for it.
Yes.
But you get what you pay for. So it also means that you might have to invest in getting a good sourcing company that's able to actually get you good leads. When we're talking about a CEO taking over, especially if you don't have a family business where it's a son or a daughter, who's taking over, then you need to invest in someone who's going to help you to vet unemotionally. Because the problem is you say, let's do interviews. And you do interviews and there's this one who you just really like because they are like you. So you're like, this is the one, let me hire. But that may not be the best fit. So this idea of retiring, this idea of taking a step back so that you can do the things that you want to do and still have a business that's generating income, right? It's a process. And as a business owner, unless that kind of HR side is your area of expertise, you need to get experts who can help you build out that transition plan, right? So that you can exit and the company doesn't, fall apart.
But if not, then you have to source. You have to outsource.
Yes, you have to outsource. You
Yeah, yeah.
you have to, that one you have to outsource.
You have to.
And you have to be willing to pay someone who can then walk that journey with you, so that you can vet someone. They come in as a CEO, you're able to be very clear on what the deliverables are. They are held accountable to those deliverables. And then again, it means you have to have a very structured board, right, that holds that CEO accountable. So,
Which are from what stage in the business are you supposed to start getting these people? Because you mentioned we need to have, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. When should you start having such kinds of thoughts and execution plans?
for me, that's where I start. I started from the beginning, I'll be honest with you. And those who know me well will tell you that I actually have a strategy to fire myself. I have no plans to be running this business.
I like how you call that, to fire yourself.
Yeah, I'm very clear. I will fire myself. In the next 5 years, I will not be running this business, right? I think, the sooner you can think about it, the sooner you can start putting in place the systems and structures required. Because, one of the first steps when you're looking to grow your business to a point where you can exit is systems and structures.
Exactly.
Things need to be done, not because I said.
Who should do that? Who should do that? Because I guess that is like the most important thing. Because it gives you the freedom to be able to fire even the CEO. It gives whoever in charge, the freedom to adjust and change here and there. Problem would be when this is done and it is done forever and you can do nothing about it. Yes.
I mean, again, so there's a number of ways that you can do all the different things that are required as a business. I think for me, one of the things I've learned is that it's really important to invest in yourself as a business owner. So I would encourage every business owner, at least every year, at least once a year, go through some sort of training that equips you as an owner of a business.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. So you can find that information by actually going through programs yourself that teach you how to do some of those things. The second thing is begin to hire. And, there's a number of ways you can hire. So one of the things I've learned is I want expertise I cannot afford. Right?
Yes.
I really do. I want expertise I cannot afford.
Yeah.
But the way to do that is to actually work with consultants. So you can actually outsource, hire a consultant who has the expertise you want, and you're not bringing them on as a full-time resource because you can't afford that.
No.
But you're getting their expert knowledge. And you can use that for someone who can come and help you set up systems and structures. There are individuals who are available. We work with an organization called Top Tier Consulting. And the consultant, the individual, there's a lady called, her name is Rosalind Mutai. She runs that company. And that's what she does for a living. So she knows about setting up systems and processes. I have no clue. So I go out into the market and look for consultants who are knowledgeable, who are able to support in those areas where I need to grow. So leverage consultants. That's the second thing. So the first was invest in your knowledge.
Yes.
But remember that you're not going to be a subject matter expert in everything.
No.
So leverage the consultants who are subject matter experts.
Yes.
You don't have to bring them on board as a full-time employee. You can use them as a consultant. And then the third thing is build your board to support the skills you don't have. So build an advisory board. As you start, you may not have a full-fledged board where you're paying them, allowances and sitting fees, but you can start with an advisory board. And the approach with an advisory board is to look for the skills that you don't have. So if you know that this idea of systems and structures is something that is a struggle for you, then go out and look for someone who has that skill set and ask them to sit on your board as a volunteer and to advise as a volunteer. If you know that HR is a challenge, you really struggle, then get someone to sit on your board who has that knowledge and skill set. If you know that sales are a problem, and sales are the lifeblood of an organization,
I know.
and if you know that you struggle in that area, get someone who is an expert in that area and ask them to sit on your board. And as you grow with them and you begin to compensate them for being on the board. Initially, you may just, pay for their fuel when you have board meetings, have a nice, lunch provided. Small things you can do to show your appreciation. But as you grow, you then grow with them. That way, you have that knowledge that you can tap into.
You're paying for expertise.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think for me, this is the way you have to think as a business owner. And it starts with having a meeting with yourself to understand that you don't know everything. You really don't. You do not know everything. And so know what are the areas that are my strengths. Okay.
You could actually know 8 out of 10, but the 2 that you don't know are most key.
Yes.
And without them, then your business just collapses when you exit.
Yes.
When I listen to you talk about the expertise that you require, the one that stands out for me the most is the systems and structures, because this is the one that lasts you forever. The HR, as long as you have the systems and structures in place, you can always get whoever and anything that you need. Because when they come in, then they know this is how the organization is run. This is what happens. You can be fired even as a CEO. This is a package that is given to the owner. This is what the owner, this is a say that they have. I mean, that to me is the most important. And if somebody can pay for it, I mean, why not? I think that mostly people just have no idea what the future holds. They have fears that they just hold on to. And so they only operate within their space. But they are fearing to step out because of what they might find. So they just absorb their fears and intimate.
And the challenge with that is you're holding your business back, right?
And people don't know that. They actually think that if I get in a stranger or an outsider, then my business is going to collapse. Then they're going to steal from me. And then they're going to divert ideas
and Betty, let's be honest, there have been instances like that, right?
True.
Let's not pretend that may not happen. It is very true. You could let go, you could bring someone in, and they could be the wrong person. So that's why the idea of systems and structures is important, because it will then help you to make sure that you bring in the right person with the right fit, and in the event that you don't, you're able to identify it early enough so that you can rectify.
And that's where the transitional plan, the exit plan, is not just a one thing. It takes time. You could do even 5 years, depending on what kind of business it is.
And then I think for me, the other thing I must say here is that some of these things are also items where it is prayer and fasting. I don't want to lie. I think as a praying woman, I truly believe that God will give that discernment, to help you see that maybe things aren't quite where they should be, and then you interrogate, because sometimes I've interacted with business owners, founders who are in that process of letting go, but they're not really letting go. And they are always seeing issues with the other person. Oh, they're not doing it like this. They're not doing... you have to let go and understand that this person isn't necessarily going to do it how you do it. So the measure isn't the how. The measure is the end result. Right?
I think someone needs to be there and vet that for you, because it's not easy as the owner to let someone do... maybe not the wrong things, but not how you have been doing them. It's not easy to let someone just carry on doing them.
And this is why, as an organization, you must have very clear values. Very often we have organization values that are just a poster on the wall. We need to have values that are very clear, that are articulated regularly, that people understand, because those values will then guide this new CEO to understand that, yes, we have a push towards profitability, but we're not willing to do it at all costs. We're not willing to cut any corners. We're not willing to shortchange our customers. As an organization, we value customers. So when you bring someone on board, you need to bring someone on board who has those values, right? And then you need to trust that they will now execute. And, like I said, systems and processes, and having, for example, an oversight, a board that then is giving the oversight. I mean, these big businesses, that's how they're doing it. So many of these big businesses that have now been running for 150 years, no longer run by the founder.
They don't fear spending.
This is how they are doing it. They've put in place system structures, and they've hired the right skill.
And they
I
have
think
still
we need
made
to
money.
transition, yes.
They're still making money.
Yeah.
Because when you look at small or average business owners, the SMEs mostly, you know, the fear is, will they make money? Everybody wants to make some extra shilling and not to spend it.
Yes.
But when you think about building structures and systems and building all these things that are very important for the business, one of the things that you want to do is to really minimize your expenditure.
Yeah.
But you must spend anyway.
So you minimize expenditure in ways that are smart. So I'll give you an example of our model, right? And I'm not saying that that's the only way to work. Remember, I told you when I start, one of the things I realize is that I want experts, but I know that I don't have the capability right now to pay them what they are worth, right? So we actually have a model where we work with a number of consultants. So we have a group that we work with called Richmel International, and they manage our HR. So I'm working with an expert who is a subject matter expert who's supporting us on HR. We have La Vida Events who manage all our events. I'm working with an expert who knows about event management, who's running all our events, which gives us that end-to-end result as far as events are concerned.
Wow.
We are working with a top-tier consultancy who I mentioned before, and they support us on building out those systems and structures, making sure that we are preparing for our growth. We have previously worked with the Center for Strategy, and that's a company that, and this was through OIT. They, gave a discount to OIT members. I'm a member of OIT, the Organization for Women in International Trade, and they have partnered with the Center for Strategy to support women-owned businesses to build out their strategy. And so we worked, with them to help us develop our strategy. This is someone who charges an arm and a leg to big companies. But because we're going in and we're working with them through OIT and as bringing on a consultant, we're able to work, with them. We've worked with a company called First Idea Consulting. Again, they're an accountancy firm. We working right now with a company called CapM Consultants. They are an accountancy firm. So they manage our day-to-day accounting. So again, this is someone who is a full-time expert, subject matter experts in accounting, who's then able to give us the support that we need as a company as we grow. So I think it's thinking outside the box as a business owner and asking yourself, where am I going to? And this is, again, where emotional intelligence comes in. Remember, I said emotional intelligence is about being aware, it's being intentional, and it's being purposeful. It's seeing the end and thinking, okay, how do I take the steps? Now, we haven't always got it right.
And you don't even have to know everything. If you can get all those experts, you should only be willing to pay them what they're worth, which you may not be able to from the beginning. But that is in your purpose, in your intention, is if you are willing to grow and have or attain the financial freedom. Oh, it's quite a journey.
Yeah, it is a journey. But remember, I think what you have to remind yourself as a business owner is you have to remind yourself why you got into business. You got into business to be free, right? And, we haven't really talked about it, but the idea is as my business grows and my business is profitable and I'm able to get that dividend from my business, I then can use that to invest in other things that generate income.
That don't even require your presence
That don't require my presence. And that then is how I begin to build
your financial freedom.
That financial freedom, which allows me to take a step back. I'm getting my dividend from my business. I'm getting interest from the investments I've made. I'm getting rental income from the properties that I own.
Wow.
All from the business that gave me the money to invest in the first place.
Wow. I like that. Mucha, that has really been interesting. Thank you so much. That has been awesome. I like listening to the pieces of advice that you gave and the many words that you have spoken on the same.
Thank you.
Please give your last words or parting shot to our viewer.
Emotional intelligence is not a nice to have. If you are in business or if you're an employee, invest in understanding your emotions. Emotions drive behavior. That is the bottom line. Whether you're one of those people who feels that you are highly rational or not, your emotions interact with your thoughts and the two influence the way that you behave. So take a moment to invest in yourself. You are your greatest asset. And the advice I would give is, if you don't know where to start with emotional intelligence, start with building self-awareness. Pay attention to your emotions. Understand that emotions are data. Everything that you feel is insight and it is valuable for your use. So that's where I would begin. And just remember that emotional intelligence is no longer a nice to have skill, it is an essential skill for success.
Wow, not a nice to have skill, but an essential one. Thank you, Mucha. It has been good to have you. And thank you also, viewer, for viewing this program. I hope you have learned quite a lot that you did not know before. And please, you have been told the starting place. Do start today. My name is Betty. I've been your host. See you next time.